Hello everybody, this is Kiran and today we are going to talk about performance and security testing. Now, what is performance testing? So, performance testing is the non-functional aspect of the testing side. Here we are not going to test the functionality or the business flow of the software. Here we are going to talk about the speed, scalability, endurance of the system. So there are different types of performance testing. The names can be quickly read as load, stress, soak, which is endurance, spike, and volume testing. Okay, we'll talk about each type of testing in detail. The steps, if we at all think that okay, what are the steps to be performed as a part of performance testing? So you have to first identify the environment where you're going to do the testing. So any software application which you're going to test on, you should know the version of the software, you should know the operating system where you are actually working on, you should know the devices where you will be testing. So first of all, the test environment setup and understanding is most important. Then you have to identify the matrix, like what you're going to calculate. Whether you're going to calculate the speed, you're going to calculate the number of users, or the transaction time, latency time, what you're going to actually measure. Now, once you know what you have to find out, you have to design and plan the performance test scenarios. Absolutely, yes, like how you're going to test. You're going to test with so and so number of users, you're going to hit on the server so many times. So what are the scenarios you're going to apply, what are the permutation combinations of the different scenarios you're going to apply on the server. So you have to design that, plan that. You have to develop and execute the test cases. So first the test cases should also be there, and at the same time when you're actually you have created the performance test cases, then you will be executing them too, and then analyze the reports and retest, which is a normal flow of any testing activity. So the same you have to do in the performance, but performance testing is done by specialized testers who are well aware about the tools which are used for doing the performance testing. So it is a different genre of testing which needs to have good specializations. Now, common problems which is there in any performance related issues which appear in our system is bottlenecking, software configuration issues, insufficient hardware resources, and poor scalability. So we'll talk about these in the upcoming slides. So if you talk about functional and non-functional testing, we have seen the difference, that there are different pointers for distinguishing them. So in the case of non-functional testing, we are actually checking the performance, the reliability, scalability, and other aspects. Now, non-functional testing should be performed after the functional testing. That is what it is, where it is done. Using tools will be more effective in case of non-functional testing, because manually it won't be much effective. Now, performance parameters are speed, scalability, and majorly speed, scalability. These are the inputs to the functional to non-functional testing. Non-functional testing describes how good the product works, how well the product works, and whereas functional testing, it describes what the product actually is doing, right? Now, it is tough to do manual testing, I already said, and these are the list of the performance testing which are there. Non-functional testing. One is performance, amongst which there are loads, volume, stress. Then there is security, installation, penetration, compatibility, migration. These are all types of non-functional testing. Talking about the performance testing, so it involves testing the application's overall performance. Features and functionality supported by software is not the concern here. We are actually focusing more on different aspects. Now, speed is how quickly the system is responding. So if there is a client, there is a server. Client is sending a request to the server that, okay, this is the user ID password. Please tell me if I have to log in. Now, there's a response, there's a processing which is happening at the server, and there's a response which is sent back. So the time taken for the response to generate and then process and request to generate, then process and then response to come back is called response time. So speed will always be dependent on, or will be measured on the basis of response time. Scalability means maximum user load the software can handle. What is the maximum number of users a system can handle? So the scale, how scalable it is, how much flexible it can be, so that is important. Stability is how the system is behaving under different varying load conditions. So if there is less load, how stable it is. If suddenly there's high load, how the system is behaving. Now, there are different types of performance testing. We'll talk about each one of them. Talking about load testing. So load testing means checking the behavior of the system at different load conditions. So we have to find out the response time, we have to find out the how well the system is behaving at 100 number of users or 500 or 1000 or 2000. So majorly load testing will be focusing on finding the system's behavior at different load conditions, and also to find out the threshold eventually. So load testing will be focusing on how the system is behaving at different load conditions. Now stress testing is to do negative testing majorly. We are putting deliberate stress on the server to try to find its threshold. If there is a occasion when we know that okay, there's huge traffic going to be coming on the system and the system might break, so we do stress testing in advance to find out the threshold limit, that okay, after this there won't be any users allowed. So let's say we use Zoom applications for meetings and virtual conferences. So Zoom application, if it is a paid version, it allows 100 users to join in. Now if suppose we are trying to add 50 users and suddenly we increase the number of users, and then we try to put on more users and see if it's allowing. So stress testing is about deliberate load on the server to try to find its threshold or to try to break it majorly. So that is stress testing. Endurance means if you want to find out that on a particular load, you apply the load for 2 hours and then 4 hours and 6 hours. So how long the system is able to bear the load. So endurance is about finding out how well the system can manage the loads and for how long duration. So it is also equally important to find out that endurance of the system. Spike is sudden hike in the load. So suppose some users are joining in, then again suddenly many users join in. So if the system loads or it fails, so spike is sudden increase in the load condition always. And volume is like having more data on the system. So volume testing will be more focused on having more number of data on the system, more data on the system, and try to see if how much it is able to behave well, and what is the speed and everything. So volume testing will be focused on the data, whereas stress will be more number of users. So these are the different types of performance testing which we usually have: load, stress, endurance, spike, volume. We use different tools, JMeter and load runner, for doing these testing. So that is about performance testing, to see that how efficiently the system will behave in case of any heavy load conditions. Now let's go back to security part. Security testing is very important in any e-commerce website or any website for that matter, where there is sensitive information, customer information involved, credit cards are involved. So it is very important to do security testing so that we are aware of the vulnerabilities which might appear, and we are well equipped with handling them, and we don't get attacked by malwares. So it's important to do security testing. So test unauthorized access to the secured pages. It's very important to know that if there is a lock applied on the accesses, if suppose you're not admin user, you should not be having admin rights. If you're an admin user, you should have admin rights, not super admin rights. So to know the accesses, to know the layer, and to know where to put the lock is very important. So security testing will be more focused on checking on these unauthorized accesses. Also, restricted files should not be downloadable. Suppose there is some files which are read-only and which should not be allowed to be downloaded. It should not be actually. Then sessions, if there is a browser session, it should time out in 5 seconds or 5 minutes. Is it happening or not? So check sessions are automatically killed after prolonged user inactivity, because if it remains open for a long time and it is not closed automatically, there can be attacks on the system. There can be sensitive data on the system which can be we can have go through data theft. So it's very important to have good secured testing, security testing done on the system, so that we are pre-equipped with any issues which might appear. Now certifications, secured certifications are available or not, if any website is on the secured portal or not. So all these are very important to check before putting the system on live. Now, secure software confidentiality. So let's say if you are disclosing the information to an intended party, and they're not supposed to know that information, then there's going to be a security breach. And following the integrity of the system, as in if nobody is watching, still we are following the norms. That is very important as a part of secure system. Determine whether the information is correct or not. Data security is the most important topic of conversation, and it's very important that the data is secured. Privacy is maintained for any of the documentation or any data which needs to be private. It has to be private. Then only control accesses should be allowed on, let's say we cannot give the database access to all the people in the team, because if anybody is running any query which goes wrong, the entire application can just crash or can lose a lot of data. Authentication is important, like who is authenticated to have an access on what level is very important to understand. Accesses to authorized people only, the same thing like having control accesses. Only authorized people should be allowed to have huge accesses on the system. Then the availability of the system, it should be available to which level, where, or which all platform, which all user is important. Now ready to use when expected, like it should be, a system should be available and should not be locked that the right person is also not able to use it. And then information exchanges with proof. So there is any information which we are passing on to the server, or we are giving, there should be a proof that it is correct, and there should be an authentication to it also. Now if you talk about security of operating system, there should be security of client software, security of system software, database software, of the data in itself, client data, system data, server data, network data. So why security testing? For finding the loopholes, because it's very important to zero the vulnerabilities. If a system is very much vulnerable, it is very likely that it will be hacked or it will be getting attacked by the breachers. So it's very important to zero down the vulnerabilities. For identifying the design insecurities, so suppose there has been a loophole while designing, so by doing security testing we can find out that okay, these issues might appear. For identifying implementation insecurity, so suppose whenever there was a server implementation, data front-end implementation, we should be knowing that if there is some insecurity, there is some breach which has been done, or maybe there has been proper testing done. So you can find those out using security testing, right? Dependencies of the insecurities and the failures. So if any system is dependent on something else, so we should know all the dependencies in that case. For information security, for sure, yes, the data security is very, very important. For the process security, the entire process through which we are actually following the working process, so we have to do the testing at each level, process level also. For internet technology security, so everything is on internet nowadays, so we have to know that what we are accessing, from where we are accessing, what web services we are taking, and how secured they are. For communication security, for improving the system, for confirming security policies, it's very important to follow all the policies. For organization-wide software security, for physical security, right? Now the conclusion is you have to analyze the potential threat. We have to first know that what kind of threats can occur, then understand if a threat has occurred already, then know how to resolve it. Complete security testing may not be feasible sometimes, so you have to know where to test or which part to test. Collect information to secure business environment, so you cannot just keep the confidential information outside. You have to have a proper business environment. It should be done as early as possible in the dev cycle, very much important, as early as possible, because if the security loophole goes along into towards UAT or very down in the SDLC, then it will become very difficult to rework on a lot of things which has already been done. Should be able to identify the security requirements. Yes, what requirements we have to know. We have to know that what all kind of testing we have to do already. Then have specific understanding of the various processes. So yes, like there are different processes. If there is an OTP which is being applied, we have to know the specific information, that how is OTP working, if it can breach the system without, can this person log into the system without providing the OTP? If yes, then how is the system person doing it? Then at the same time, while applying credit card or giving secure information like CVV, am I able to enter without giving right CVV. So we have to understand the process. Now should have provide recommendations to overcome weakness. So suppose there's a loophole which you found out using root cause analysis, and then the next team member should also be reminded about that, okay, the such error has already occurred and we can avoid such error by doing so and so changes in the code. So it's very important to understand and learn from the what has been found already, learn from those things and not repeat the same problem. So yeah, that is a bit just about the security testing conversation. Rest the topics will be explained in the upcoming sessions. Till then, thank you. Goodbye.